welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Reviews. Um, Helping you fill in the coronavirus stirred crazy gaps here, apparently. Like, you know, all sports are canceled and, everything is closing, so people are stuck inside and such, they need things to watch, like our show. Anyway, so three reviews up this week. The first of which is Elderborn, Metal AF Slasher. I think you can discern what the AF stands for. Like, right, so Elderborn is a first-person melee combat game. Um, it is distinctly different than a first-person shooter. There is no shooting in this game. It's all about up-close combat weapons.
Think of it more Elder Scrolls, but with more fluid movement.
Right. But, I mean, this is a specific type of game. This is not the first one of these kinds of games that's ever shown up.
Yeah, I'm just a relatable example, really.
Mm, like, honestly, I think the last one of these that we featured on the program was City of Brass from a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Though this game plays a lot differently than that game did. Designed differently, too. This one has actual design to it, as opposed to procedural generation. So all of the levels are handcrafted. All of the enemy placements are predetermined. Um, and anyway, in terms of the combat, it's I think its closest analog is Dark Messiah, Might and Magic. Like, I might be the only one here who played that particular game. It was a first-person combat game in the same style, but released like last decade, and it was off the Source engine, so it used a lot of the Source engine's physics effects. And the real giveaway is the boot. Like, I remember Dark Messiah using the kick mechanic in a lot of ways, including kicking enemies into traps, kicking enemies off ledges, and those are featured here, though not nearly as important to the combat mechanics as that game did. But anyway, your combat comes in four distinct flavors. You've got your sword here, which is your starting weapon. It's your Mario kind of weapon. It's jack of all trades, master of none. But, it's what you start out with. Then your next one is your spear, which is, obviously more long range, and it's your first parry weapon. You've got two blocking styles. As in, you've got your blocking weapons, like the sword here, and the spear you can parry, which, when you do that with an enemy, you can throw them off balance for a counterattack. Let's see. There is the hammer, which was my personal favorite weapon, because even though it's probably the slowest of the weapons, it when it hits an enemy, it hits an enemy. They will get stunned, and it's got a very broad range of movement. So it's also really good for fighting multiple enemies. And the final main type of weapon are the hooks, which are your quick attack weapon. It's the quickest of the bunch, but as the trade-off, it's also the one that does the least amount of damage, at least in the light attack mode. There are also two different attacks. There's the light attack and the heavy attack. And it goes about as, what you would think. Like, the light attack is faster but does less damage. And it's, and with the combat mechanics here, it's always trying to figure out the right timing. When do you go for the heavy attack to maybe one-shot your enemies? And as far as enemies go, well, I mean, there are several types. And so, we've seen, the three main types you'll be facing throughout most of the you got your regular ghouls here. You've got your shield ghouls. You've got your spear ghouls who are fucking annoying because they have actual ranged attack weapons. And there will be other villains and beasties that I won't give away here, except for like the fucking scorpions, fucking low combat enemies. Just they weren't well implemented in this game. More annoying to fight.
Can you not look/aim down, or
you can, but it's kind of hard. Like I found the best way to do that was with the heavy attack of the spear, like, and it just gets kind of tedious. And the idea is, you're supposed to counteract that sting, and then you hit. But I found it was easier to just back away and hit them with the heavy attack. It was more tedious than fun. Like regular combat's pretty good. The core dichotomy is pretty fluid. It's a bit is a bit on the slow side. This game also has some Dark Souls influence. So it's not going to have the snappy FPS combat. You will have to learn some timing here and all that. Also worth noting is you're seeing the dashing here, but when you level up, there is also the requisite almost obligatory leveling system here, which you can power. You can get more defense, more attack, more speed, and if you put in 5 levels, first go around, you will be able to unlock 2 abilities. I will offer a pro tip here: unlock the charge move as soon as possible. It will be your best friend, and also invaluable against the first boss. What I will say about boss encounters is, well, the one I fought was not good. This game didn't quite know how to do boss battles good. I know what they were going for there, but it was just easier to cheese the boss with the charge move. That's a failure of game design right there.
I mean, that's better than a boss that you need to cheese but can't.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, and you also have that Bioshock-inspired healing. I forget what they call it, but it's basically what you use to replenish your health if you're away from a fountain. And this game has a checkpoint system. That's kind of important to note, because if you die, there's the other bit of Dark Souls inspiration here is you will lose all of your experience if you up to that point, and you've got to do the Dark Souls / Shovel Knight thing of getting back to that point and getting your experience back. And if you die again, you will lose that. So that is your punishment. Also, if you die or if you re-heal at a fountain, everything will respawn. So keep that in mind. And as far as the combat healing goes, every time you kill an enemy and suck up its soul, you will get not only gain experience, but you'll gain the charge power. You can charge up to 3 vials or charges, whatever they call them. In terms of graphical fidelity, it's okay. This game isn't going to win any design awards or art awards, if I'm being honest. It looks, in terms of graphical fidelity, it looks fine, but it's definitely a budget title. In terms of its art direction, well, at least the first part of this game here, it's all catacombs and sewers. There's only so much you can do with that. I will say the game gets better in that regard once you get to Chapter 2. Granted, I didn't play too much into Chapter 2 because, honestly, this game is a long game. Surprisingly long game. Like the first chapter took about 9 hours to conquer, which is a lot more than I was expecting. Now, the thing is, this game doesn't really have the chops to sustain itself for that amount of time. Like by the end of the first chapter, I was good on it. I mean, it's nice from a content point of view, but it's also like I think City of Brass had a better terms of structure. Like it kept things short. Like it's like I think if this game had stuck with maybe the one chapter or made the chapter smaller, like if this were a 9 hour game total, this would probably be a game of the year contender. Like because I do think the mechanics are, these are that solid. It's just it's a shockingly tiring game, um, and that's kind of due to the combat. This is very exacting combat. And yeah, this game is isn't as good as its inspirations. It's unfortunate to say, but you know sometimes that happens. Anyway, Petty, you've been playing this game for the review footage. What's your take on it? Petty may have muted himself. Yeah. Uh, are you still there?
Hello?
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite the biggest fan on how the keyboard's laid out, but I didn't have enough time to actually change the stuff to put on my mouse or whatever.
Yeah, it's got fairly customizable controls.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what's your take on this game?
It's pretty alright so far. I would like to see if I can get any other weapons, but I doubt we're going to get to before the end.
Probably not. I mean, like that's the kind of thing if you played this more, that would be seen. But I don't think you'll be getting the spear in this in the breadth of this review.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the music, well, that's where the other part of the title comes in. Yeah, because the metal as fuck isn't just the sword metal or anything like that. No. Sometimes there is no music, um, strangely enough, but other times, like usually when you get a big gathering of enemies, it'll kick in with the metal riffs, you know, and as you would expect, the heavy metal here is on the generic side, but you'll be able to get your head banging on, or it works well in conjunction with you know knocking the shit out of a large pile of ghouls. And let me see here. So pricing, the game clocks in. It's currently available for Steam. Uh, it is worth noting that this game does have console ports in the works, but those have no time attached to them as of this review. But as far as the PC version, it is $14.99 regular edition, and the Metal AF edition is $19.99 or $19.77. That's not much of a discount. Mainly because the Metal AF edition includes some bonuses. They're about as bog standard of bonuses you can get because they are the original soundtrack and the digital art book. Like seriously, I think that is like the actual standard for the bare minimum of a bonus edition.
Yeah, sometimes they don't have art books.
Fair enough. Like, and sometimes it is just the soundtrack. But
yes.
In terms of pricing here, $14 to $20, $15 to $20, perfectly serviceable price point for the game you get here. Like, I would say it's the exact right price point for it. That being said, how long this game will last to you probably varies by the person. Like I said, one chapter and I was good. You may like this game more. It's just foundationally, it's pretty solid. Like I'd say, on a scale of solidness, a 6.5 out of 10. No, it's good, but you can tell that this was made by a small team. Like, um, it's not overly buggy or anything like that. Although, like I broke the game on a few occasions there, like going through the walls.
That's the best kind of game breaking.
Mm-hmm. Like, but it wasn't a consistent thing. And as far as performance, well, it's a Unity game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, seemed to work fairly well. Like, it's always hard to judge these things because PCs are so different from one another. But and yeah, it's just this is just an all-around solid game. Maybe nothing too spectacular, and like it's not a replacement for like Dark Souls or Dark Messiah. But if you've already had your fill of those kinds of games, I would recommend this one. Or if you don't have the money to buy a triple, like one of the AAA sets, this will do in a pinch as well. Like, any other words from you, Petty?
Not really. It seems all right so far, but I only got to play a little bit of the beginning.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Like, we'll cite you as more impressions than review here. Like, but anyway, any other questions or anything about Elderborn?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. All right, then. So that's about it for Elderborn here. Be sure to tune in after the break as Pettyfan will be reviewing Milo's Quest for the PlayStation 4.